A city such as Edinburgh, with such a gruesome history, is bound to have its fair share of ghosts. Add to that these ancient, atmospheric narrow closes that proliferate along the Royal Mile, and you can see why such stories have taken root. Here, at Borthwick's Close, for example, many strange sights have been reported. In particular, a pair of burning red eyes. It was in a house in this close that a pair of lovers were murdered by a jealous husband. Their bodies lay undiscovered for a decade. Another haunted close is on the other side of the street, Mary King's Close. This has an even more disturbing history. You can see what a narrow alleyway it was. The story goes that in 1645, when the plague hit the inhabitants of this close, the city authorities decided to contain the outbreak by bricking it up and leaving the inflicted inside to die. Whether this is true or not, ghostly goings-on have certainly been reported here. The most famous is Annie, a young girl who was abandoned here to die in the plague. Some have seen her ghost still crying for her doll. To comfort her, visitors are known to leave no end of toys, and these are regularly gathered up and distributed to children in hospital. Yeah, I've creeped myself out a little too much now. Let's continue on to the next point. To your right is the headquarters for Edinburgh's Fringe Festival, which is the largest arts event in the world. It started as an uninvited sideshow to the main festival, but since 1947 it has expanded to envelop the entire city for 3 weeks in August, with plays, street theatre, comedy and the downright bizarre. There is no selection criteria, so anything goes. And it does. Every year now, a prize is awarded for the funniest original joke to emerge from the Fringe. Past winners have included the one about choosing a password, which goes, I needed a password 8 characters long, so I picked Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Or perhaps you prefer, you know who really gives kids a bad name? Posh and Becks. I could go on and on. The Fringe is Edinburgh at its wildest. The partying goes on until the wee hours, and clubs and bars stay open till 5 or 6. And the festive atmosphere is tangible, despite whatever the Scottish weather decides to do. Many stars of theatre and comedy have been unearthed here, and during the day, performers hand out flyers and do impromptu selections or scenes from their pieces to encourage publicity. Celebrities such as Rowan Atkinson, Stephen Fry, members of Monty Python have all performed at the Fringe at one point or another throughout their illustrious careers. OK, let's continue walking along the High Street. On your right, you'll come upon a church called the Tron Kirk, and no, it's not named after the Tron Legacy video games. This church was a traditional focus for the legendary rowdy Hogmanay or New Year's celebrations every year, until the crowds became so large that they had to move the event elsewhere. It has not been used as a church since 1952. Instead, it's been converted into a venue for the Fringe Festival. The church was established in the 17th century after Charles I tried to impose an episcopal structure onto the Church of Scotland and turned the High Kirk into St Giles Cathedral. Some individuals removed themselves from the congregation of the High Kirk in response and commissioned a new church, which was built here in 1647. The name Tron comes from the weighing scales that used to be situated here. OK, let's get on to our next point of interest.